All right, good morning, and I hope you're having a fun time wherever you are. Welcome to the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM Go Unit Radio, the heartbeat of dialogue. And of course, as we always do it every Saturday, by this time, Science Brainwave is proudly powered by the DNA Learning Center Nigeria. And well, you remember how we always do it every weekend. All you need to do is just to call in and answer, pick randomly from our questions. We have right now, we have 1 to 50 questions. Pick randomly, answer 5 correctly under 2 seconds for one question, and stand the chance of winning big. And remember to participate, to call, to answer, to be part of the science questions this morning. Call all us on 081 8888 I beg pardon, I repeat that, 081 8888 1069. I repeat, 081 8888 1069. Or call us on 08076246701. I repeat, 08076246701. And this week we have our very own big brain in the house who has returned this week. And of course, we are talking about GMOs in agriculture and DNA Learning Center. And unfortunately, this is the period where there's this ensuing conversation on GMO. Everybody's talking about GMO, genetically modified crops, organisms, and the rest of them. And well, we have Victor Abaa in the house this beautiful morning. Victor Abaa is the lab manager for CEDFOCI DNA Learning Center, Maoga, in the office. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right. I remember, if you're joining us online, all you need to do is just to watch us live on Facebook and on YouTube. We are live right now on DNA Learning Center on Facebook and DNA Learning Center on YouTube. Just be part of the Science Brainwave. We have loads and loads of people already who have already won, and I bet you this week this week could be your own chance to win big. All right, we're going to delve right into the discussion for today, and we are first of all setting the stage by introducing GMOs and their importance in agriculture and addressing public perceptions, because there's a lot of mixed perception about DNA currently in Nigeria. In fact, it's a highly contentious discussion. Okay, and first of all, remember that at DNA Learning Center, this is what, in fact, we do for a living. We do every single thing about gene editing and gene modification. All right. So, Mr. Victor, can you briefly explain what GMOs are and why they are game changer for agriculture? Because they are not entirely bad, actually.
No, they're not. GMOs are what we call genetically modified organisms. These are organisms whose DNA has been changed and altered in order to gain one or two advantages or benefits. Say, for example, improve yield of crops in the case of agriculture, improve resistance to pests, bigger volumes. Some people want to improve the taste of certain crops because there are some varieties that taste better, and they feel, okay, let's make all varieties taste better. Some want to improve the quality, the longevity, improve the way they can be stored for longer periods to battle things like food shortages. Some foods are, we know, seasonal.
Yeah.
So some of them transportation to other places and basically avoid being disease infested along the way or even while they are being grown on the farmlands. So in a nutshell, that's what genetically modified organisms are. So it doesn't just happen with plants. We have them with things like animals. We have them with microbes and all of that. So yes, in a nutshell, that's what genetically modified organisms are, and that's what it's about.
All right, and then the thing is, there's a lot of misconceptions there,
Yeah.
and there are concerns there also, because looking at what people always there's this conspiracy theory about big pharmaceuticals and big companies trying to monopolize the issue. So now we're going to go into this next question. Why do you think GMOs spark such strong reactions? Like, generally, why do you think it sparks such strong reactions, especially from us in Africa, in Nigeria?
All right. First of all, what I'll be doing is stating facts. I'm not speaking for or against a decision that is already being intensely argued online in different spheres and environments. But I think the bulk of it has to do with being informed, right? There's a very big difference between being informed as a scientist and being informed like as a layman, basically. Now, we can understand something in detail, some people can't, and that's why we're here. We're here to give out the facts in as basic terms as possible. We're here to give out information in basic terms as possible. So to your question, why is it such a contentious debate? Is we need information, we need to understand what this is all about. So I'll give a build up to that to give a very concise answer. We have multiple species of dogs, cattle, or chickens. I know growing up, so when you do, that's what we call crossbreeding in science. Breeding in science, that's not GMO. But when you do that, what do you think happened? The genetic information of both the local chicken and the big chickens, right, have been merged in the new ones. We accept them in crossbreeding. We accept it is universally accepted. We do that with apples. Have you seen some apples that are red on one side and almost green, white?
Yes.
Those are crossbred apples. They are not natural. They are not like, they are between different species of apples being crossbred. We have many dogs that people keep at home as pets, as security dogs, that are also crossbred. Now I want to use that idea. All of that involves genes being exchanged between species, being manipulated to give us a desired offspring, right? What genetically modified organisms are simply scientists trying to say, when we do crossbreeding, both what we want and what we don't want gets crossed over.
Okay.
Do you see that, right? Simply the scientists say, pick what we want. Only the gene coded for maybe muscle cows to make cows have more meat. We'll take only that gene that codes for bigger muscles and put it in a species of cow that has plenty milk but no muscles. So the offspring would have more muscles and more meat. So the day you decide to slaughter it for meat, you have a lot of meat, and as long as you keep it for milk, you still have a lot of milk. So that way you're benefiting. You have meat and milk. But if you had to crossbreed both of them, sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't get what you want. You might instead get spotted cows instead of the meat gene being transferred to the offspring. You get those that have spotted colors. You have those that will be black, those that will be brown. You know, some will even become smaller because it's a smaller gene, because it's not specific in crossbreeding. However, with GMOs, what we're doing in science is taking the specific gene you want, and not having that information makes you think, oh, genetic modification is just we're bringing and putting in, plugging in things that are foreign, not natural, and all of that. And that's the core issue when people are discussing it, is they do not know what we're doing in GMOs has been done years and years in farming by crossbreeding.
Wow. this is really information that actually gets right now. But there's this critical question I need to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. DNA Learning Center, practically we are experts in gene editing, because at the end of the day it's still gene editing.
Yeah.
What exactly are we doing at the moment in helping people understand this, and how can people tap into our or the opportunities we're offering?
Okay. First off, we offer hands-on training so people can come and see for themselves, right? For example, we have a summer training program that's beginning on Monday, 10th of August, right? People who have graduated from universities are coming to camp with us for 2 weeks to learn most of these things. Now, if you've been to our center, it's also, for example, one other thing we do is we allow people to visit and tour and learn what we do and ask questions that we can answer. That's even totally free. You don't have to pay for that. You just come visit, tour, ask questions, get to learn what we're doing. Now, if you've been to our center, it's located in Obom, where almost everything around us is almost 100% natural, right? We have a natural flora, and then we tell scientists, go and pick these natural things, bring them into the lab, look at them at a genetic level, right? Use molecular tools, biotechnological tools to explore. Then we can get to explain the differences in terms of gene editing. For example, we can take something that's been naturally crossbred with one that hasn't, and you can identify the different genes. And we can see, you can see very well here, this is different. You can look here and say, this is the original one. And then this happened naturally. And then we can tell you, okay, get like a plasmid and take a desired genome from a particular plant and plant in a plasmid, and we'll show you real life what gene editing is all about. Because what I've just explained now is basically gene editing that is used in GMOs, basically.
Well, So if you're listening to us right now, just know that there's a big opportunity for you out there. If this is sounding alien to you, it's doable. And the funny thing is, we're doing it in Enugu State.
Yes,
we're
we
doing
are.
it in Nigeria here in Enugu State, and DNA Learning Center is leading the way on it. Remember, the lines are open for you to call in. Yes, it's not just for you to answer the questions. You can still ask your question in this discussion if you really want to understand more about GMO, and if you want certain clarifications, you can ask your questions. And remember, you can call us on 081-8888-1069. I repeat, 081-8888-1069 or 080-7624-6701. I repeat, 080-7624-6701. I repeat, I'll go through the numbers again. 081-8888-1069 or 080-7624-6701. Remember, calling and be part of the Science Brainwave competition. All you need to do is pick randomly from questions 1 to 50, answer 5 correctly under 2 seconds per question, and stand a chance of winning big. We are waiting for your call. And I'm in the studio this beautiful Saturday morning with Victor Abaa, the lab manager for CEDFOCI, right here at DNALC Learning Center, Nigeria. So, Victor, I just want us to go through this thing. And I know that you've mentioned it before. Can you just walk us through the process of creating a GMO plant?
Okay, all right. The process isn't all that it's okay. For we scientists, we might say that's basically simple and an easy process to go by, right? Now, all you need to do, I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible, but if we're in the lab, right, there's a biological tool that we call PCR, right? People can use that tool to try and identify genes in genome, pick up those genes and put them in a foreign object. Take, for example, plasmid or a bacteria or a virus. Now, all of this can be done within the lab, and you get to see how the virus take a hold and how you basically plant that gene in within the genetic makeup of that of say for example a plasmid, and it takes that gene and begins to multiply. One of the techniques we use is PCR amplification, multiply. So this is basically something you can do, how the plants will be able to take that gene you've introduced and replicate it. Now, another key thing to do is what we call cell culture, for example, right? You can take that gene, put it in a cell, and then take the tissue of that cell and put it in a cell culture. And for plants, this is very interesting. Plants can basically grow into a whole plant just from their tissue and their cell. So basically what you can do is take your desired gene, plant it in that plant cell, and then culture the plant cell in the lab, and it grows into the plant. Now the seeds of that plant would have your modification once you take information that has been introduced into the plant.
All right, you just made mention of something that looks a bit complex, but I know that DNALC has a way of breaking these techniques.
We have trainings and models and all of that for people to learn. We have bioinformatics where people take the information being learned, analyze it, and use it for scientific purposes.
All right, what does the science say about the safety of GMO? Because I can remember some years ago, the current NAFDAC Director General said that GMO is not safe. All of a sudden, she's saying it's safe, and there are the campaigns out there saying that that it has a propensity, in as much as we don't have the data at hand. So we're saying that it has a propensity of causing cancer, of altering the cells in the body and all those things. So how do you address this concern?
So like you said, she once said it was dangerous, and now she's saying it's okay. The difference is information. The difference is what has been proven in the lab. The difference is the data that you have available to show. So I'm going to drop you some very real facts that people do not know. 90% of the corn produced and eaten in the United States are GMOs. Only 10% are organic. And even that 10% not 100% organic. But 90% of corn, cotton, soybean are all genetically modified in the United States. Now, these are basic things that they need in large numbers. So they are basically taking the front seat in terms of GMO in the United States. I want you to think about that 90% of everything on the shelf that has even other foods. For example, your corn flour you use in baking in the United States are gotten from corn that are genetically modified. Right? The soybean oil used to fry and bake and do all sorts of things, genetically modified. Right? Cotton, genetically modified. You have things like apples. You have pineapples. A lot of food items, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables are all genetically engineered in the United States. Now, I'll give you another statistics to look at. 55% of almost every edible item in the United States is genetically engineered or has a genetically engineered product within them, ranging from chicken to beef to salmon. So just think about it. Zucchini, just mention it. They all have a genetically modified product within them, or they themselves are genetically engineered.
Well, but the argument has always been that when you even go to those shelves, you see it's labeled.
Yeah, it is labeled.
Now we're talking about Nigeria.
Yes. So
what's even, because in Nigeria we don't really have these guys paying very close attention to the fact, not even doing their job to ensure that proper regulation is being ensured.
Good. So you've just brought us to a big idea, but before we get to this idea, you asked me a question about cancer and all of that.
Yes.
There's no data to prove that actually, right? People are worried. People think about so many things that could happen. The point is, GMOs have been around for just about the last 20 years. So the ethical issues that people are raising, there is actually no scientific data to prove otherwise. Instead, the more we have looked into those issues, things like crossbreeding and other natural selection that has been done in the past speak against that, right? The crossbreeding of beef naturally before caused cancer, right? We just basically don't have enough data. There is a lot of research going on, and it might take 60, 100 years before somebody can probably bring out coincidence to say, okay, this particular issue in humans was caused as a result of GMO. But we do not have that data. That's the reality, right? But we have ethical issues. People are worried. What about plants that bees, the honeybees, goes to cross-pollinate? Won't that DNA change get into those bees and then spread into other organisms? Well, the ones that have been done naturally have gotten into those bees, have spread into other organisms, and we do not have the data to say something wrong happened. Neither do we have the data for genetically engineered plants that have been like pollinated by bees and other things to prove otherwise, right? Like I said, we're not trying to say for or against, but these are the realities.
We just stated the reality.
It's just the facts, right? That's what is on ground. So ethical issues are very real because that's the only guardrail to stop scientists from going off guard, of course.
Okay, I need you to make this. I need to speak critically on this right now. You know, we're looking at. We've already mentioned how we DNALC in Nigeria is making genetics and GMOs approachable for students and educators. But I want you to speak on the skill set. The skill set. If you come to learn how this is done with our hands-on training approach, what does the future like for you as a student or as an educator if you come to learn this thing?
Okay, so whether you're a student, an educator, a professional who is going to apply this in probably STEM businesses to push out GMOs or improve farming in Nigeria, well, for now, we think the sky is our beginning point, right? So as a student, you get hands-on PCR training techniques. Of course, we do have well-trained personnel who will put you through all of this. We've just spent the last couple of weeks preparing for the conference I told you, the workshop that's beginning on Monday and training, right? So we have things ranging from the world of enzymes down to PCR, all the way down to microscopy, cells culture, growing media, and all the likes. These are all tools that are very, very important to understanding the subject matter we're discussing this morning. So there are various classes, various courses, various trainings, various workshops people can take on depending on your interest. So this is something we're doing, and the interests are scaled based on levels. For students, you have your level. For even secondary school kids, we have a wonderful reference library. So we have levels for even secondary school kids to learn just how cells are able to code for proteins and then generate proteins, because we know the gene is responsible for giving the information to trigger proteins to be produced. So yes, for professionals who are working big times in institutes, research labs, and all of them, people who are trying to do PhD program, master's degree programs, yeah, we give them room for them to do the work. We give them room for them to try and just explore the tools in genetic engineering to just, depending on your field, I can't pick one field now because everybody has different interests.
Yeah.
Right, we have people calling for different interests. However, the tools are available, the personnel to train you are available, the network to put you in. Remember that we're not just on our own. We're partnering with many partners. We're partnering with DNALC New York. We're partnering with Bowie State University. We're partnering with Godfrey Okoye University. We're partnering with the Enugu State Government. So it's just endless. It's just limitless to what you can do. But the hands-on experience cuts across everybody. Professionals can learn professional techniques on how to use PCR to grow cells. We have, like, for example, Dr. Abaa, who is running the aquaponics, where we're using water from fish ponds to grow plants without soil. I mean, just think about that. And we're growing vegetables. We've had tomatoes, we've had the local vegetable we use for soups here in Nigeria, producing all the way to maturity and producing even new food, and no soil used in growing all of those, just strictly aqua water from fish ponds. And we have different research that's going on. So I mean, you tell me if we have a limit.
That's incredible. All right, remember you are on to the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM Go Unit Radio, and my name is Chikeze Obona, and of course I have in the studio Victor Abaa, who is the lab manager for CEDFOCI right here at DNALC in Nigeria. And remember, the phone lines are open. You can call in, participate, ask questions, and also participate in our Science Brainwave quiz competition and stand a chance of winning big this week. Call us on 081-88-881069. I repeat, 081-88-881069 or on 080-7624-6701. I repeat, 080-7624-6701. Remember, this morning we are talking about GMOs in agriculture and the DNA Learning Center. Remember what we said earlier on. GMO is an organism whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering techniques to express desired traits. All right, and humans have always modified crops for millennia through selective breeding, but modern genetic engineering allows precise gene insertion, and that's what Mr. Victor has been trying to articulate and explain to us, all the processes, and of course how DNA Learning Center will help you acquire the skill to do this, and of course increase crop yields. And he has already mentioned that 90% of US corn and soybeans are genetically modified, and reduce pesticide use and environmental footprints, enhance food security through drought and disease-resistant crops. And of course, it's not all bad about GMO. And the point of what we are doing this morning is to help, first of all, educate you about GMO, and then let you know that you need to. It's not something that you just wake up and flow with a wave of misinformation. You need to understand what's going on and ask the right questions. All right, remember, just like I said earlier on, this is Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM Go Unit Radio. Remember, the phone lines are open. Participate and call to answer our questions from questions 1 to 50. Pick randomly and stand a chance of winning big. People have been winning week in, week out. Remember to call us on 081-88-881069. I repeat, 081-88-881069 or 080-7624-6701. I repeat, 080-7624-6701. Remember, if you're watching online on Facebook or on YouTube at DNA Learning Center Nigeria platforms, you can participate, and you still stand a chance of winning big. All the details you need if you're joining us online is showing on your screen. All right, Mr. Victor, let's go further in our discussion about GMO. Okay, well, I want to ask you this: what are the biggest benefits of GMOs for farmers and consumers?
Okay, there are loads of benefits so far. Like I said, all we can talk about is data, what's proven, what's real, and what's sure. There are a lot of plants like bananas and a few other plants where they've been engineered to increase things like vitamin A inputs. So that is of benefit to individuals, right? Fruits that produce certain vitamins, organisms that produce certain healthy benefits like the soybean oil, even some fish oils. Now they're being engineered to give higher yield so that people can benefit when they eat from those foods, those nutrients, increase the nutrition in those plants, so that people can benefit. Now, farmers specifically in agriculture can avoid huge losses in plants due to probably weather, insects, pests, even diseases that plague a lot of plants or agricultural products. So it's a huge boost, right? We have loads of countries who are suffering from food scarcity. Some grow in regions where water is not enough. So So you can engineer plants that would require less water and still give you the same or even more yield. So these are benefits that are targeted by scientists in genetic engineering to improve agriculturally, and then for individuals. You can name them different nutrients. I just gave you an example of vitamin A, but there are loads of others that are being done with in plants, in animals that we eat, for proteins. You remember that when we talk about GMOs, we're talking about engineering proteins, because genes code for proteins. So everything about GMO is just proteins, basically work on proteins. So you can think of all foods that have to do with proteins, and then we can manipulate those genetic makeup to produce even more proteins in the plants and animals.
Of course, we can actually say that this is an answered prayer to, or let's say it's an answer to fighting droughts, fighting famine.
Yeah, it is. I think that's what's in mind. That's basically what drives scientists who are involved in genetic engineering for agriculture. It's the drive. It's that the world's suffering. If we talk about it realistically, there's difficulty. Some parts of this world lack foods due to adverse weather conditions, and the scientists are saying, how can we do this and improve that? Yeah, of course, people always talk about the limitation of agriculture due to environmental factors. People raise concerns that would manipulating these plants affect the natural habitats of the environment, right? Now, we may not have the data, but that's a real concern. For me personally, of all the concerns we've raised with GMOs, that is the only real one that worries someone like myself. Now, we don't have the data to say it's happening, but I'm like, it's something that,
the possibility
that it could happen down the line.
And that brings me to the next question. How does DNALC address the environmental and ethical concerns about GMOs in its program? Even if we've not identified the environmental and ethical concerns, but there are possible environmental concerns that we could foresee, and how exactly are we?
Yeah, one of the ways we're trying to drive research, we're trying to call on researchers across Nigeria by providing facilities that could enable them to provide us these answers. We're trying to drive undergraduate students, postgraduate students to pick up research in this area. Normally, your science can only be as good as the limitations you have around.
Yeah.
Now, when you don't have facilities like ours, you don't expect people to go into research to try and answer these questions. So what we've done is we're currently building a state-of-the-art research center, if you like, training and research center, which is the DNALC Science City, which hopefully should be flying very soon, within the next 2 months. Now, we're trying to provide a scientific environment where people can answer these questions. Now, like I said, we built our facility at a very heavily natural environment. We have the Nike Lake just beside us. We have streams and rivers around us. We have very healthy natural environment around us. So you see very specific local insects, animals all around our environment. Now, this is strategic in the sense that we can pick things that have been engineered outside and compare them with what is real around us without us having to really go long distances to try and find natural habitats for scientific research. So one of the things we are doing is providing the best training possible through our instructors. well trained. We keep training them. We connect them with best trainers, not just in Nigeria but overseas as well. We're providing an environment that is research driven, that is academically and professionally driven to grow people in this field. We're providing equipment. We've just bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to equip our labs so that people are not using outdated equipment, but they're using cutting edge technology to ensure that our results are of world international standard. We're also providing the conducive environments to ensure that that can be done safely, that can be done with quality outputs, that can be done while serving humanity at large. And then we're trying to provide a robust leadership system to ensure that we are tested, trusted, and long-term within Enugu State.
Of course, DNALC Nigeria is doing a lot, and of course, just as the mandate is, we are reshaping every single thing about science education and STEM development in Nigeria, and Enugu is so lucky to have us right here. All right, remember I have in the studio Victor Abaa, who is the lab manager for CEDFOCI DNA Learning Center Nigeria, and well, he's not a new face, he's always been a regular face here, and we're just dissecting every single phenomenon you can always think about. And this is the Science Brainwave episode 5, and right here all you need to do is just to call in and be part of the Science Brainwave. Stand a chance of winning big. Pick randomly for questions 1 to 50 and answer 5 correctly and stand a chance of winning big. Call us on 081-8888-1069. I repeat, 081-8888-1069 or 08076246701. I repeat, 08076246701. And if you're watching us live on Facebook and on YouTube, every information you need is displayed on the screen. And if you want to watch us live, join us live on Facebook and on YouTube at DNALC Nigeria. And then, Mr. Victor, what excites you about the future of genetic engineering, and how is DNALC preparing students for it? There's this particular thing that excites you about it. Yes, you've already raised possible concerns in as much as we've not really proven it beyond every reasonable doubt. But what excites you about genetic engineering, and how is DNALC preparing students for it?
Okay, I think from my point of view, the most exciting thing are its implications and applications in diagnostics and medical industry, right? But diagnostics, pharmaceutical, and medical industry, that's pretty much exciting because we've done a lot of work in genetic engineering in the field of plants, animals, agriculture, and all of that. It's a tool that has also been used in. We have research that was done in terms of handling things like the sickle cell anemia issue, where the gene has been manipulated to remove the deformity of the sickle cell and replace it with a healthy gene. Now, I want you to just take a minute and think about that we are providing solutions to sickle cell, that one day it will be a thing of the past.
That's going to be a very big breakthrough.
Yeah, so that's what excites me, that there are many people who are suffering genetic illnesses that can be solved through this cutting-edge technology, right? There are vaccines, there are treatment options, pharmaceutical options, where things like RNA synthesis are giving us options to solve and heal people from sicknesses. So that's one thing that excites me. What are we doing at DNALC with that? We're offering courses and training that will drive people to explore these techniques. I mean, one of the biggest issues we've had in public health in Nigeria is a discussion of when are we going to produce our own vaccines? When are we going to produce our own solutions that we can trust that we are doing for ourselves? That's been one of the biggest questions we've had since the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic happened, is we had to rely on people, we had to rely on Oxford vaccine, we had to rely on Moderna, we had to rely on all these different vaccines. Right now we're relying on vaccine for malaria that's coming from abroad. We're relying on vaccines for polio that is almost 100% gone. When are we going to start creating solutions for ourselves? What excites me is that DNALC is opening the door for us to do that. DNALC is offering us the platform to begin to have Nigerian grown solutions in the medical field, in the diagnostic field, in the pharmaceutical field. We are bringing those techniques home so that even our local companies can see people who have the know-how to ensure that we can do all of this and still grow as a country.
And of course, that excites me too, because I just can't wait for us to start leading as we're supposed to lead in Africa. Because already we are playing catch up. That's if you're actually even playing catch up. We're still sleeping. Because you have to wake up to start playing
DNALC
catch up.
has woken a lot of us up.
Of course. I just hope that the powers that be in the country will just tap into this rare opportunity being offered by DNA Learning Center Nigeria. And there's this critical question I know anybody could be asking anywhere right now. Are there ways we can test if a particular food is GMO?
Yes, there are multiple ways for checking GMOs. At this point, I hope you don't mind me being a little bit much more scientific in my orientation to answer this question. Think of it this way. For example, when we talk about PCR, amplification processes, which is a technique that is used in genetic engineering, right? You have to use your polymerase, which is an enzyme, to try and cut open the DNA to introduce the one you're bringing in to try and engineer, right? So we can test to find out where in the transcription process were we able to kind of like introduce the DNA to. There are markers, right? Basically, we have what we call promoters, and then we have terminators. So you can test for promoters and terminators. So all you have to do is to run a test to identify where the promoter is, and it tells you, oh, this particular cell or this particular gene has a promoter. If it does, then it means it was engineered. If it has a terminator, it means it was also engineered. So we can test for all of that. There are things like ELISA, amino acids, that we can use to also test to find out if something was genetically engineered. So yeah, there are different tools, different testing capacities that we can use to detect if there are even some rapid test kits that have been made to, but what a rapid test is, just like a basically very quick test that saves a lot of time. You don't have to go into the lab, get large equipment, and all. Right now there are rapid test kits that can help us identify genetically engineered foods. So yes, a lot of the FDA in the United States, other agencies in Europe, and even agencies like our own NAFDAC here are meant to have access to such testing, either laboratories, equipment, or RDTs, as we call them, rapid diagnostic tests, or in this case, rapid tests for GMOs, that you can easily identify foods coming into the country, and you can say, okay, this is genetically engineered and this is not. It's organic, and then we can classify all of those. So that's there. I do not know if we have all those tools here in Nigeria at our fingertips, but that exists and that can be done.
You know, for our dear listeners, this might be sounding alien and be sounding big for you, but that's one thing about doing the learning center, because we're offering the opportunity for you to come in and learn. It's going to all the things are going to be broken down for you to understand how to understand all the concepts, and then to acquire the most important thing, acquiring the skills and becoming an expert, starting your journey to becoming an expert in it. And if you want to know more about us, visit us at DNALCnigeria.org. I get to see our programs, see our courses, even the ones that will still happen next month up until the end of the year. This is the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM Go Uni Radio, and I have in the studio Victor Abaa, the lab manager for DNA Learning for CEDFOCI at DNA Learning Center Nigeria, and of course the Science Brainwave. And remember, you stand a chance of winning big. Well, for those that couldn't call, you still have next week, which you just need to pick up the phone and call and stand a chance of winning big. Well, before we wrap it up, Mr. Victor, what is that one thing you want our listeners to take away about GMOs and DNALC Nigeria's work today as we about to wrap it up?
Okay. For GMOs, I would say before you get in on the discussion, make some research. Try to be informed. And if you want to have fun getting informed, visit us at our lab. Visit us at our place at DNALC Nigeria here in Enugu State, and you can have fun learning, because we can give you a tour, we can show you what we're all about, and we can answer your questions and get you to be adequately informed. Also, we want you to know that at DNALC, we are a friendly learning center. We do research. We do trainings, we do workshops. We have a lecturer from Ebonyi State who is doing like a very, very wonderful research on mushrooms. I think you may have seen her a couple of times come around. We have people who are doing all kinds of research with us. We have students who graduated from university who want to hone their skills so that they can go into their industry and perform. We have students who've learned so many theoretical things and need practical learnings that are coming for that. We have people who are training to learn to be DNA paternity specialists. And so we offer all of those things. We try to give that opportunity at DNALC so that we can like realign science in Nigeria to be on the same par with the rest of the world. And we're opening our doors not just to graduates but even undergraduate school kids. We have room for people to come and do excursion. Secondary school kids can come around to do excursions and get exposed to science pretty early. And then we want people who are trying to explore opportunities in STEM businesses around sciences to come and talk to us so we can see how we can help. So we're a friendly environment for all-round growth in terms of science.
All right, so a friendly environment for all-round growth in terms of science, and that's the takeaway for us this week. And of course, if you are just joining us, this is the Science Brainwave right here on 106.9 FM, Go Uni Radio, and in partnership with DNA Learning Center Nigeria, Godfrey Okoye University, Guamoneke. And all you need to do is just to visit us, just like I said earlier on our website at dnalcnigeria.org, get to know more about us, and I get to see our programs and perhaps sign up for any of them to acquire the necessary skills you need to start thinking scientifically and start expanding your horizons scientifically. This is the Science Brainwave. Remember, by the same time next week, we're going to return. All you need to do is just call in and be part of it. Unfortunately, we didn't get a winner this week. Well, next week is another opportunity for you to call in and participate and win very good cash prize to enjoy your weekend. My name is Chikizi Obona. Once again, I want to thank Victor Abaa so much. Thank you, sir, for coming around.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you always. Whenever we call you, you're always around the corner. And a special shout out to my assistant in the building, Tosin, David Oluwatosin, Duke as well, who is here and who has been helping us behind the scene. All right, see you soon.